All right, welcome into Talk Illini, part of the Orange and Blue News of the On3 Network. Please do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff for us. Definitely helps us out here on the channel, bringing you all the Illini news and updates for football and basketball. On Saturday, we have quite the game with Illinois facing off against Purdue in Mackey Arena. Sonny, this is one of the best arenas in the country. It's one of the most difficult places to play in the country. Thankfully, Illinois on an 8-game winning streak. At this point, KenPom has Purdue winning this game 78-75 just by 3 points. But I do think that Illinois has a really good shot in this game. Obviously, no Kylan Boswell does make things a little tricky. We talked about that in our Maryland recap and going through some of that. But I think this is a game where Illinois, for the first time in a long time, has the size advantage, right? I mean, Jacobson, sure, with Purdue, he's 7'4" and everything else, but you look at the average size advantage, Illinois has the best size in the country, and Purdue is outside of the top 100. So there's a myriad of different ways we could talk about that, but just your overarching thoughts on the game, Illinois versus Purdue. What are your overarching thoughts going into it?
Yeah, it's a great showdown with a lot of storylines for both basketball teams. You know, you have Illinois, as you mentioned, 8 straight wins, the most Brad Underwood has ever won with the Illini. But unfortunately, you have the big story about Kylan Boswell being out for a month, fracturing his shooting hand. And so, you know, how does this team adjust? We saw a glimpse of it against Maryland, but how much of it was a post-Kylan adjustment, or how much was it just Illinois is just a lot better than Maryland at the game of basketball? I don't think you really learned much from it. And then you take a look at the other side. You talk about Purdue. Undefeated in the conference until they lose to UCLA. And so they're coming home. They're pissed off. And, you know, they're fighting for this is a really top-heavy Big Ten conference, right? Between Purdue, Michigan, Nebraska, Illinois, Michigan State. You're talking about 4 or 5 teams that have a legit shot at winning the Big Ten Conference this year. And, you know, the Big Ten winner ultimately would probably have 2-3 losses. And so both of these teams, Illinois has already lost to Nebraska once. Purdue probably lost a game that they wish that they could get back against UCLA. So it's almost a must win for both teams if either have aspirations to win the Big Ten Conference.
Did you see that Purdue UCLA game very much?
I've watched ins and outs of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was such an interesting game, and it felt like it was such a confidence boost for UCLA to get that. And then once the crowd started getting behind them, they were really able to get into it. But it did show me that I think one of the ways that you can defeat this Purdue team is just to continue to essentially spam offense at them. Now, UCLA only scored 69 points. It's not like they got up into the 90s or anything like that. But I do think that when you keep spamming offense and you get on runs and you get going against this Purdue team, it can be very difficult for them to keep up. You know, they are a team that can miss some shots, and they don't necessarily go down to the paint as much as they have done in the past. Trey Coffin-Wren is still being utilized a lot. He's still a primary contributor to the team on KenPom and everything else, but Trey Coffin-Wren hasn't had more than 20 points once this season. Braden Smith, you know, he is the straw that stirs the drink, you know, and all this stuff. But I think if Illinois is able to play some really good team defense, and, you know, Braden Smith's going to get his, he's one of the best players in the country, if not the best. But at the end of the day, if Illinois plays really strong team defense, they should be able to withhold Purdue enough in this one, and the offense gets going, as long as they're not too reliant on the three-point shot, but the offense gets going enough in this one. I think you could see Illinois get above 75 points in this one, and that for me would be one of the major keys to this game. You cannot score less than 75 and beat this Purdue team, in my opinion. Yeah, no, at home, Purdue at home. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe Jackson said this perfectly, actually. If you watch he does Feed the Post. He also does the Purdue previews. He said that both of these offenses are designed to beat the other team's defenses. And so I think it's going to be an offensive showdown on Saturday. I don't know whatever the over-under ends up being, but I think I'm very comfortable taking the over. Purdue loves to take mid-range shots. Well, you know what? Illinois is going to let you take mid-range shots all day long. And, you know, a guy like Braden Smith, again, I'd be feeling a lot more confident if Kylan Boswell was out there chasing Braden out, but unfortunately he's not. It's going to be Andrei Stojakovic, who did a really good job against David Coit, but Braden Smith is on a completely different league. And I really think it's going to come down to, first and foremost, who makes their shots? If Illinois is making their 3-point shots, then you know what? I think more often than not that Illinois is going to win that type of game. But if Braden Smith is able to set up his teammates to, because Purdue's one of the few teams that can take mid-range shots all day and make them. Illinois usually plays the averages, and they don't mind you taking those shots because they're not highly efficient, and essentially you're taking the toughest shot in basketball, the least valuable shot, and they're going to test you to try to do that for 40 minutes and beat their highly efficient offense on the other side. Purdue's one of the few teams in the country that can absolutely do it. Like a week ago, they were the number one offense in the country. Illinois overtook them after that UCLA game, but you're right. It's a game of matchups. I think one thing that we have to point out is the size difference between these two teams. I mean, Illinois, if we should just go back and forth with it, Illinois starting 6'6" against 5'10" or 6 feet. If you're a Purdue fan, you're going to tell me that Braden's 6 feet. Fine, sure, wink, wink. But then you got, Stojakovic at 6'7" against 6'4", and then you have Jake Davis 6'7" against 6'4". You have 6'9" against I forget their power forward, 6'9" against 6'9", then 7'1" against 6'11", right? When it comes to the backcourt in particular and the 3 spot, Illinois is going to have a clear advantage. And, when it comes to those mid-range jump shots, they're going to have to shoot over some length. And I think that could trouble Purdue. I don't think it's an ideal setup for that Purdue offense.
Yeah, Purdue's 4 is Trey Kaufman-Renn. He's 6'9" there. So
no, I couldn't. I know it's 4. I couldn't think of how tall he was. 6'9".
Oh yeah, 6'9". But yeah, so it's me really interesting because you do make a really good point with the mid-range game and everything. And in fact, KenPom does have numbers on this. The average 2-point distance shot on KenPom for Purdue is 7.3, which is 343rd in the nation. So they do like to go out there and take these mid-range shots a little bit more, and it does impact how much they're able to get to the free throw line, because when you look at their free throw rate to field goal attempt rate, it is 27.2%. Again, that is outside the top 300. That is 342nd in the nation. So I'm with you. I think a huge key to this game is going to be Illinois moving the ball around, getting to the basket, and forcing Purdue to foul, or forcing them into bad situations to where Illinois can get to the free throw line. Because as we know, if you're getting to the free throw line more often than other teams, that's going to be a big benefit for you. Purdue had that benefit for years with Edey and everybody else. But if Illinois is able to get down low and actually, get down in the paint and get close to the basket with some of these shots, they're going to be successful, in my opinion. But the problem is you do have Trey Kaufman-Renn, who has gotten better on defense, and Oscar Clough is down there in the paint. He's very physical as well, and somebody that you have to look out for. And then Daniel Jacobson there at 6'4", when they bring him in, he is definitely a shot blocking threat. That's one of the things that I don't think got talked about a bunch with the UCLA game, is that there were some blocks that were goaltends for Purdue in that one instead of blocks. So if maybe Illinois can work that out a little bit more and maybe get some luck there on that end. I think Jacobson had at least 2, maybe 3 blocks that ended up being goaltended, and that was obviously beneficial for UCLA. But the paint battle is going to be huge. If Illinois can just shoot their regular shots from 3-point range and kind of hit their average, as long as they get down into the paint, as long as they draw fouls and get Purdue in trouble there, and hit their free throws as well. You got to hit your free throws. That's going to be super important to do.
And Illinois is one of the best free throw shooting teams in the entire country. I think the front court matchup is going to be one that I'm going to watch. Who follows one of the Viciches around? Because the Viciches have no problem standing behind the 3-point line. So which one of the bigs guards them? Which one takes David Mirkovic at the high post? Matt Painter's got a lot of decisions to make, but the one guy who I think can break Purdue is Andre Stojakovic, right? He's the one guy, when I take a look at that Purdue roster, I have no idea who's going to guard him. I don't think they have physically someone the size to really guard him and what he kind of does. A guy who can take the ball behind the 3-point line and just attack the rim over and over again. Yeah, he's not the most efficient player on this Illini roster, but he can get those easy baskets and get other teams into foul trouble, which lead to shooting those free throws. And again, I think collectively as a team, we're shooting almost over 80% in the last couple of games. It's a way where, again, that's the test for Matt Painter. I think if Andre Stojakovic has a big game, I really do think that game script tells me that the Illinois Fighting Illini come out with the victory from Mackey. But if Andres doesn't have a big game, then all of a sudden I think that neutralizes the one weapon that I don't think Purdue has an answer for, and the Boilermakers come out on top.
I mean, it is a really interesting conversation because Andrej Stojakovic, 6'7", what is he, 215? I think he is 220, somewhere in that range. And the guy that plays the three for Purdue is Fletcher Loyer, who, yes, is 6'5", but 180,
Yeah, the
which
clear size difference.
Yeah. So he has some of the height there that could contend with Andrej Stojakovic, but if you put him on the defensive end, Andre, I'm not gonna say he's gonna have his way with him because that seems a little disrespectful, but he definitely has the size advantage there that he could get his own against Fletcher Loyer there. I mean, Jakari Harris might be able to do a little bit too, 6'3", 210, and he's not a bad defender. CJ Cox is 6'3", but he's only 195. So I'm with you. It doesn't really seem like there's a great matchup here that Purdue can put on Andrej Stojakovic, and he has to do a great job of exploiting that weakness there. On the other end, you have Braden Smith, who I think we all would have agreed Kylan Boswell would have had that assignment if he was in the game, but Kylan Boswell's not in there. And as you and I pointed out, defense is probably the biggest concern with losing Kylan Boswell. However, you did have Andrej Stojakovic step up against Coit there in that Maryland game. I think Keaton Wagler's defense continues to improve throughout the year. I don't think I'm ready to put Keaton Wagler on Braden Smith. I think you're going to put Andrej Stojakovic on him. What say you, Sonny?
I think that's the move to make. I think you saw a glimpse of it after the Maryland game. They asked Andrej about his role, and they talked about how originally when they were game planning, they were going to put Kylan on Coit, but with Kylan out, they made the switch to Andrej. I just think you can't put Keaton on Braden because you can't risk Keaton getting into foul trouble, and you also just can't tire him out. You want Keaton fresh. He does so much. He is the engine of this number one offensive team in the country. I think Andrej, he can accept that role. He's shown that he can do it. He's always, for the most part this year, he's been our second best defender. He's got the length to bother a guy like Braden. Does that mean that he's going to focus so much on defense that he's not going to be able to get you 30 on the offensive side? That's fine. We don't need 30 points from Andrej Stojakovic on the offensive side. We've got a lot of other guys that can do that and step up. It's the defensive side. Braden, hopefully you're talking about like a 6-7 inch difference between these two players. He's not going to shut down Braden Smith. No one's expecting him to. What he needs to do is make Braden's life as hard as possible on Saturday.
Well, a guy who could make Braden's life hard on the defensive end, because I think if you have a lineup with Andre in there and Mihajlo Petrovic, now I know Mihajlo's not playing any more than 4 minutes per game right now, but man, if it's the end of the first half, I'm throwing Mihajlo in there and I'm trying to get Braden Smith on him, and I'm just telling Mihajlo, go. Right? I mean, he is all over the place, whether he has the ball, whether he doesn't have the ball on offense. And I'm saying make Braden chase you around. And then I might even throw him in there for a minute or two in the second half to try and get Braden to be down. I mean, they talk about it in every single broadcast. One of the reasons why Braden's able to play 38, 39, 40 minutes a game sometimes is because they don't ask him to be the primary defender on defense. Well, in this one, you are going to have to defend every single player on the Illinois offense. Now, there is a little bit of a break with a guy like Jake Davis, who's going to roam the three-point arc more than anything else than what he does. And so there could be a little bit of rest there. But if you take Jake Davis out and you put Mihajlo in there with Wagler and Andrej Stojakovic and you just tell Mihajlo go, I think that's going to tire Braden Smith out a little bit more if they are going to put him on there. Maybe they go to zone. We've seen teams go to zone against Illinois a little bit more lately, but it worked a little bit in that Minnesota game. It did not work out very well for Maryland in that game, and I think they obviously were practicing on how to beat the zone last time.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I saw Purdue play zone. Zone is usually for teams that don't have the guys on the defensive end. Mihajlo is interesting, just in the sense where you're right. Like if there's one guy who can really force Braden to run around and expend some of that energy on defense, it would be Mihajlo. But he's just been so erratic on the offensive end, and I don't think he gets the benefit of the doubt when it comes to foul calls from the referees. So I don't think he's going to be able to bait the Boilermakers into getting foul calls. And so I just think that, especially with how important this game is on Saturday for both programs, as we discussed, that Mihailo might just provide too much of a variance for Brad to trust him with too many minutes. But again, if Braden is rolling and you need a change of pace, what we learned, right? We saw this against Minnesota. If the shots aren't falling, if you need a spark plug, if you need to try to change the vibes a little bit, Mihailo is perfect for that. But I would be shocked. Quite honestly, I'd be shocked if Mihailo even gets to the 4 minutes that he got against Maryland. But again, without Kylan Boswell, they have a game plan. I don't think they showed us much against Maryland, but maybe it's because they were saving it for the game against Purdue.
Maybe. We'll see. Prediction time here, Sonny. Give us your score prediction. How do you think this game's going to play out?
I truly do think, I told you this right before we started recording, that if Kylan was in, I think Illinois right now is just built to beat a team like Purdue. And I would have felt pretty confident. And I don't ever remember saying that, that I felt like Illinois could go into Mackey and I would consider them the favorite. Now with Kylan gone, I think there's just a little too much question marks. If I had to guess, I would not be surprised if Illinois comes out of Mackey with a W, because this team has proven me wrong week after week, seemingly. A lot of games that previous year's teams would have lost, this team doesn't. They do seem a little mentally tougher. But ultimately, if I had to guess, I'm going to guess a high-scoring game, maybe something like 88-82. The Boilermakers win, just because the game is in Mackey.
I will be the resident homer on this show since you've not taken the role. That's fine. I'll do that. I'll take that sacrifice for everybody here. I'll go with Illinois winning the game. I'm gonna say a little bit lower scoring than you, but I think in this one we see some really good team defense from Illinois, and I think that they're able to hold Purdue a little bit more. I think Purdue's going to get theirs. Obviously, it's Mackey and everything else, but I think that this is an Illinois team that is still going to have a very potent offense, and if you combine that with some of the defense that we've seen over the time, I mean, if they hold Purdue to less than 30 points in the first half, it's going to be huge for them. And I think I'm not going to say they're going to hold them less than 30, but I think they're going to hold them to less than they have teams like Tennessee and stuff like that, less than 34, 35. And I'm going to take Illinois to win this one 81-78.
Love it.
So we'll see if it happens. All right. Let us know your score predictions down in the comments below. If you have any keys to the game, you agree with us getting to the foul line, obviously. Are there any players on Purdue that concern you? Or if you're a Purdue fan and you found this channel, go ahead. Hey, like and subscribe. Even though we may be mortal enemies in the Big Ten, we can still like and subscribe. Okay. Follow your Illinois content here. Keep tabs on the Illinois Fighting Illini with Talk Illini here with Orange and Blue News on the On3 Network. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.